Our story begins with a Japanese man in some seriously colorful pajamas waking up in a strange white room. This place has no doors, no windows, and no ceiling, just a big, empty space that feels like a giant marshmallow. As he wanders over to one of the walls, he spots something bizarre sticking out of it. Yep, you guessed it, a strange protuberance that looks a lot like a guy's private parts. Curious, he pokes it a few times, and suddenly, hundreds of giggling baby angels burst out from the walls and floor. They only stick around for a couple of seconds before zooming back where they came from, but not before leaving behind a little surprise. Now all their members are poking out of the walls and floor too. Welcome to the phase known as learning, folks. In a panic, the man sniffs the finger he used to poke the weird button and screams for help, but no one is listening. So, he decides to press a bunch of buttons to see what happens. Each time he presses a button, a random object falls into the room, from a tiny toothbrush to a giant vase. It's like a bizarre game show where he's the only contestant. After some trial and error, he finds one button that keeps giving him a huge pile of chopsticks. He's having a blast until he accidentally presses the button next to it, which releases a small cart that rolls into his legs. Next, he presses another button, and, surprise, a cartoonish butt pops out and lets out a loud fart right in his face. This guy's day just keeps getting weirder. However, hours pass, and he's collected a mountain of random stuff in the room. When he throws a ball at the wall, it hits a button that delivers sushi right to him. But wait, he realizes he's missing soy sauce. He calls out for it, but of course, there's no response. So, he starts pressing buttons like a madman, ending up with heaps of sushi but still no sauce. Finally, he gives up and digs into the sushi, which turns out to be delicious. Just as he finishes the last piece, he presses the button for more and, boom, a bottle of soy sauce appears. He's furious and pushes it away in frustration. Next, he presses a different button and gets a pair of old-school 3D glasses. When he puts them on, he sees a baby angel pointing at his member, and he thinks he's finally found the answer to his problems. But after pressing that button, he's met with a countdown and a giant butt descending from above to pass gas on him again. After a while, he reads 5 volumes of a manga series that he finds absolutely hilarious. But when he presses the button for the 6th volume, he ends up with the 7th instead. Talk about a letdown. He tries other buttons, getting volumes 8 and 9, but still no 6. Just when he's about to lose hope, he presses a button that opens a hidden door in the wall. Excited, he celebrates this discovery, but in his eagerness, he forgets which button opened it in the first place. He starts pressing buttons at random, and the first one makes an African tribesman run back and forth on the wall. The next button douses him with water. Finally, he finds the right button, and as the wall opens, he makes a break for it, only to have the door slam shut right in his face. He tries again, but the same thing happens. Then he realizes that the door only stays open if the member is pressed down. Determined to escape, he tries all sorts of ridiculous methods. First, he gets into a runner's position and presses it with his foot. Next, he swings a fly swatter from a distance, hoping that will do the trick. He even tries pulling it with a jump rope and hitting it with air from a fan. But nothing works. His next bright idea is to get on the cart and push it after pressing the button. But after a few failed attempts, he realizes he has zero control over that thing. What he needs is a way to keep that button tip pressed down. He tries putting a huge vase on top of it, but the button pops back up. Oh, time for plan B. He decides the vase needs to be heavier, so he tries filling it with water from the button that sprays him. But no matter how hard he tries to redirect it, the water just ends up soaking him. Next, he fills the vase with sushi, but it gets so heavy he can't even lift it. The neck is too narrow for his hand to fit through, so he resorts to using chopsticks to remove the sushi one piece at a time. After what feels like an eternity, he's removed enough to barely pick up the vase. He takes it over to the buttons, but then forgets which one he needs to press. When he tries one, the African tribesman pops out and accidentally bumps the vase, cracking it in half. The man freaks out, yelling at the top of his lungs, but in his fit of rage, he finds the right button and starts covering it with sushi. Surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. The little member just pops up through the rice. He tries taping over the button, then adds a steel plate for good measure, but nada. After taking some painkillers for his aching back from the door slamming on him and squeezing in a quick nap, he decides to brush his teeth. He presses a button, expecting water, but instead, a rope falls from the ceiling. He opens the door and swings himself across the room, but when he tries to open the door behind the fake wall, it's locked. He makes it back just before the door closes, but it still manages to hit him on the way in. In frustration, he kicks the wall, activating a button and revealing a key floating in the middle of the room. But just like the door, the key disappears when the button pops back up. Time to get creative. First, he needs to find that button again. Using his foot as a guide, he presses one button and gets a dog barking at him. The next one does the same thing. Finally, on the third try, he hits the jackpot. While keeping his eyes and a pointing finger on the button, he walks backward, grabs a piece of sushi, and uses it to mark the right button. but when he presses it, the dog comes out again. Ugh. He finds the button faster this time and puts his plan into action. He makes the rope appear and swings towards the buttons, but he's still a bit short. As he falls, he spots a plunger he got earlier and has a light bulb moment. He can use it to push himself farther. After one failed attempt, it works like a charm. The combination of swinging on the rope and pushing with the plunger allows him to press the button, grab the key, press the door button, and make it to the exit before it closes. He quickly inserts the key and turns the lock, but when he tries to open the door, he discovers a nasty surprise, a separate lock on top that requires a 3-digit code. He rushes out, getting smacked by the door as it slams shut. In frustration, he throws the plunger at the opposite wall, activating the button that releases the African tribesman. As he watches the men walk by, he notices 3 numbers painted on his forehead, the combination he needs. Since time is running out, he decides to swing on the rope and jump 3 times, 1 for each number he needs to enter. On the 3rd swing, he gets to the door, but it's stuck. He has to push with all his might to get it open. Finally, he manages to do it, but just as he does, the wall behind him slams shut, trapping him and leaving him with barely enough room to finish opening the door. Devastated, he plops down on the floor and starts crying, reminiscing about all the fun he had with the random objects he collected. Sure, he was locked in there, but at least he had room to move and plenty of entertainment. But now, he realizes he took it all for granted. Suddenly, he feels a cool breeze on his face coming from the left wall. Curious, he touches it and finds a crack that reveals it's a fake wall. Without wasting a second, he pushes it open and bolts out, running into a mysterious hallway floating in a pitch-black void. It feels like he's running forever, and when he finally reaches another room, his hair is longer and his colorful pajamas have faded. This new room is empty too, and when he enters, the door slams shut behind him. Instead of baby angels, there are adult angels here, and just like before, they disappear into the walls, leaving their members behind to be used as buttons. Welcome to the phase known as practice. Meanwhile, in a bustling city in Mexico, little Antonio's family is worried about his dad, a wrestler known as Escargoman. He's been acting quieter than usual, and his wife thinks it's because his next opponent is much younger. But Grandpa insists that experience beats youth any day. Escargoman's daughter, Sister Karen, picks him up in her truck and drives him to the wrestling ring to get ready. This includes changing clothes and praying to the Virgin Mary. Gotta have that divine support. At school, Antonio is getting bullied by his classmates for betting on Escargoman, who they call a weak loser. As the match time approaches, Sister Karen picks up Antonio and Grandpa to take them to see Escargoman in action. She doesn't stay, but Antonio and Grandpa find some of the last seats just before the show begins. The first team to enter the ring is the Northern Tough Ones, made up of Super Demon and Tequila Joe. Then it's Escargoman and his partner Silver Eagle, who come in under the team name, Kiss Me a Lot. Silver Eagle starts the match off strong, but soon he's overpowered when the Northern Tough Ones team up on him. They keep gesturing for Escargoman to join the fight, but he refuses until Silver Eagle pulls a sneaky trick that makes Super Demon and Tequila Joe hit each other, allowing Silver Eagle to escape. But soon, Escargoman finds himself in trouble too. Just when it looks like he's about to get hit with a chair, our hero in the mysterious room presses a member button, magically extending Escargoman's neck and knocking out both opponents with a headbutt. In the room, nothing seems to happen, so the man keeps pressing the same button, causing Escargoman to knock out Silver Eagle, the referee, Antonio, and even the bell. Talk about collateral damage. Frustrated, the man starts trying different buttons. One button makes a metal band singer breathe fire over his audience in Los Angeles, another causes a Russian magician to fail spectacularly at making his assistant disappear, and a third makes a guy in China bark at his own dogs. Just when he's about to give up, he sees some light coming from above. Unlike the last room, this one has no ceiling, and he can see angels flying around in the distance. Feeling inspired, he decides to try something new. Instead of just pressing the buttons, he'll climb the walls using them. Each time he grabs a button, something amazing happens on Earth, from flowers blooming to an elephant dying. The higher he climbs, the more complex the effects become. Now it's not just nature, but also humanity, with everything from a toaster to a moon landing. By the time he reaches the top, his hair and beard have grown long, and he doesn't even need to hold onto the wall anymore. He can float like the angels. Using all the skills he's picked up from his previous training, he embraces his new role and starts choosing humanity's biggest hits instead of randomly pushing buttons. When he's done, he's surrounded by feathers instead of walls and enters a glowing portal that takes him to the final room. This one has the continents painted on the walls and a giant trunk button that he's about to press. Welcome to the phase known as Future. So, this how the movie ends. This movie's name is Symbol, which was released on year 2009 and has got 6.9 rating on IMDb. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the like if you truly enjoyed it, and hit the subscribe for more content like this. I'm sure we'll meet again in next video.